Okay, welcome to our Special Education Technology Center webinar series. Today we're talking about tools to know. It's all about alternative access methods for AAC, augmentative alternative communication. We did talk about low-tech access methods for literacy last week, but this is a little different. We're looking at specifically at AAC, high-tech and low-tech. So I'm Sarah Kinsella. This is Brenda.
Hi.
Thanks for joining. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we promised that we will talk to you about alternative access methods. So if you have students who are not just using their finger to access their AAC systems, this is for you. Or if you're not sure, we're going to explore high-tech, low-tech options, talk about partner-assisted scanning, look at Facepointing, and talk about what you can do for high-tech AAC systems to support motor skills that are developing in students.
So, we have direct select, which was with your finger, and we can decide, well, that's not alternative access, that is the access method, right? But sometimes we just can't forget that there are a few things like when you touch the button it turns red, that helps bring your visual attention or helps your access improve, or in key guards. So I just throw that in there. I don't think we're covering it today, but if you are on a budget and you have an iPad and you're like, oh man, I wish I had a key guard, you can have those made, and there's a Tuesday tip in the YouTube of SETC for how to order the specific key guard for the specific language. So it's not alternative. It's not alternative to direct select, meaning they're still using their finger, but they may need support. I just wanted to mention that. Eye gaze is actually still considered direct select, right? But because there's nothing in between the user and the device, so it's direct select. But I don't consider it that because it doesn't feel like it. And there's a lot of strategies to make eye gaze successful. And honestly, if you miss one of the tools, you could be unsuccessful. So I want to be sure you guys know what 2 or 3 things really need to be set up right for success on that. Head pointing and face pointing, we'll talk about the pros and cons to that, and then switch access. And there's lots of different vocabulary around that. And I think Proloquo has like 5 different names for these different scanning patterns. And so, I mean, the field is making it more complicated, but we'll go through just the basics on that. So let's talk about eye gaze first. First of all, it's amazing, and they're doing it with their eyes, and that means that you're telling the device how they're going to make a selection. Sometimes you can do it with a blink. I typically do it with dwell time, and I set it to a clock where it goes like this, and I'll show you some slides as we move forward. But yes, they are actually looking and doing it with their eyes. It's pretty exciting. Cameras are getting better and better. So why would we put a kid on eye gaze? Their vision has to be their strength. It doesn't mean that it has to be perfect, and it doesn't mean they can't wear glasses, but it means it's their strength. So if their vision is really, really poor, we're not doing it. But CVI is not an exclusionary diagnosis, because that is really variable, not only for each child, variability amongst each child, but even in one person's body throughout a day, ophthalmologists will come up with different levels of CVI. So it's so variable that we don't rule it out. We don't rule out eye gaze just because we see CVI on the paperwork. I have a couple kids that qualified for Foundation for Blind Children here in Arizona, and they're on eye gaze. So, and they're successfully doing it. Again, we'll talk about the limitations about that. We only look at eye gazes if they can't do direct select, right? So they have really good vision, but maybe they don't have use of their hands. And eye gaze can be better than switches because it is more direct and it's faster. So what we need to do is figure out the visual feedback and the dwell time. And you can have on the accent, you do the shrinking dot. On the Toby, there's the red clock. And you can also have a hand be a cursor. Some kids will chase that cursor. They're just looking back and forth. They don't realize that they're controlling it. They think they're watching it. And if you pull the cursor away, then they can actually see the pictures. So you kind of keep your eye out for those behaviors. And you can also set the device to highlight the button when the child is on the button and invert it or even make it grow a little bit. So there's a few other highlight features that can be done in each device.
Brenda, for newbies, can you tell us a little bit about dwell time?
So the dwell time is how long the child has to hold the gaze before it activates what's being said on the device. And sometimes I should put that really short in the beginning so that they can not have to attend for very long. And then, and when I say in the beginning, I mean the first 5 minutes of my evaluation. I don't mean in the first 6 months. I just mean in the very, very beginning. So they're like, oh my gosh, I think I'm doing this. And then I put it into maybe a 0.6, 7, or 8, which is a more normal period of time. And then you get a sense of, is it the right amount of time to look at it, decide you don't want it, and look away before it activates.
Thank you. So shorter in the beginning to get some success and see how it's working.
Right. These videos don't involve kids next. Sarah,
okay.
So to turn off the recording, but I do need to, I just want to give you guys a quick overview on these things.
Sorry, did you want me to put that slide back? Okay.
I'm got it.
Okay.
And sorry, all right, I'm just going to play this video for y'all. I hope.
So this is the accent. We're on 36 Unidad, which is why it's all in Spanish here. And I hit English. It will populate the English side here. And you can go into the toolbox user menu and switch user to any kind of user that you might want. And that language system is really more than we're going to get into today for the purposes of eye gaze, but you have options. So what we're going to do is show you that there's a box right here that shows when I turn it on, it's green, and you will see my eyes in that box, and you will see a number. And so that is right there. And that says that the number is 17. And as I pull away, the number gets larger. So you want that number to be between 18 and 22. And you want those edge dots to be centered. That's kind of how you're always knowing where the eyes are. Okay. And you can go into toolbox and access method, eye gaze positioning, and see your eyes in a larger scale. You can customize your eye gaze settings, 1-point calibration. You can make it, I like to do an image and then I say no, and I pick something that might kind of dance or move for them. And I make my background color something that is going to be contrast, but not create reflection. And then when you do the calibrate now, all they do is look, and then it says calibration complete. And now you are back in your language system. I have a highlight on, I have a shrinking dot on. There are a few other things you can change to make your cursor on the screen highlighted or not.
So that is just a brief overview of the accent. And so, and this video, I don't know if this is on, I don't think this is on SETC YouTube actually, but I should put it on there because it's a little overview. Let's see. So then, to be fair, I'm going to show you also a short, brief look. This was something I did for a boy, and so I was just giving a video for the layout so that the school was oriented.
So here is his device, and the top button is going to show his eyes. You want the arrow to be right at the green, so you know that you are not too close, which is when the arrow is high, or too far away, which when the arrow drops too low. You can turn off the eyes. You can pause the eyes at any time with that pause button, which is the second one here. And that's how you can work on it without activating it with your own eyes. When you go into here, you're going to have I want to eat, drink, play, sing. And these are kind of errorless pages. He picks it, he gets it. When he picks twinkle, 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 I usually pause the eyes, sing the song so he can look at it without activating something else. We also have Spanish pages now that match the English side. And there's a core word page that you might like that moves into more and all done. Yes and no. Yes and no. Come here, go away. That's a fun game. Go and stop. Go and stop. Turn. And my turn, your turn. So just remember that in the first 6 months or so, we're training him that he is using his eyes and not just watching. So feel free to use these games as warm-ups. We usually do 2 to 5 minutes of warm-ups, and we'll do 10 to 15 minutes of eye gaze, and then you'll need to do something else to rest his eyes. So you don't want to do a whole session with him in front of the device. You'll want to have him maybe do I want to play balloon, and then you might bat that balloon in the distance or bring it close to his face so his eyes can not be fixated on one particular distance. So the games help him realize that he's controlling the screen and not just watching the screen. Hope this is helpful.
Okay, so I just decided that when I just was like, oh, I wish I had a video of an overview, and then I found that video that I had done for a school SLP who was like, help, how do I set this up? So I just did a little thing with that, but that's why it wasn't edited and not perfect. But anyways, so that, any questions on what you just saw on either of those devices, or what I said, or what logic behind all of that, and or anything? Okay, so this device is programmed for eye gaze, the accent, or is the eye gaze something that you added? Same for the Dynavox. Okay, for both of them, they were ordered with the eye gaze cameras installed.
And so in the, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying, thank you. Yeah, so it's just like a Tobii Dynavox, but then it's like, it sounds like it's something you have to add when you order it for the eye gaze.
Yeah, I mean, you have to order the eye series with eye gaze to get a Tobii with eye gaze, and you have to order the Accent 1000 or 1400 with Look, which is their camera and software for their eye gaze.
Okay.
But your reps have trials that you can use, and we have an Accent, I believe.
We have a 1400 with eye gaze. It has new eyes, so that was the previous eye gaze before Look came out, but it's very similar. So you can borrow that from us. We have a Tobii Surface with an eye gaze bar, but your reps can connect you with that. And if you don't know who they are, I can put that information in for people in Washington State.
Well, the other thing is that Toby in the video was an older one, and now they don't have the buttons on the side. They have those indicator buttons on the front of the camera, but they still have those same two things that you can hit the button and see the eyes anytime, and hit the button and pause the eyes at any time. So I apologize that the video is a little bit outdated on that hardware, but then I thought if your district or any kiddo has a device in the last 5 years, that's the one you're probably looking at anyways. So
Right, that's so true, Brenda.
helpful.
There's another question. Is there eye gaze for an iPad?
Yes, and you know what, you guys, I did I do that? I took a video of a kid doing it just last week, and I didn't add it to this webinar, but if I
With the Skyle, Brenda? Is that what you're talking about?
yes.
Okay, so as you're looking, I'll talk about that. So there is, it's not built into the iOS. Facepointing is, which is something that Brenda's going to show us later in this webinar, but there is a new system called the Skyle that the Special Ed Technology Center has. It won't be on loan for another 2 weeks, but it will be available. And it is essentially a case that fits onto an iPad and has an eye gaze bar built in. And it uses the assistive touch features of the iPad. You have to have a Pro. And so I don't think we have that added in here, Brenda, do we? I can get the information.
No, and I can't believe it because it's super new, you guys, and it's a little bit tricky to get it set up. So at first I was like, I don't know if this is the technology or user error, and by user I mean me, not even the kids, because it was tricky. But so I have these couple videos. Let me just let me airdrop them to my computer, and if it works too.
Great. I think that's definitely useful for us. And then I will put a link to, actually, let me just pull it up for y'all now. Thanks for being patient with us. Our Tuesday tips. This is a good time to just check it out. So this is our Special Education Technology Center YouTube channel. And if you go to playlists, you can see Tuesday tips. Where are they? Is it covered up? Here it is. Tuesday tips. And in here, let me pause this. One of them should be the Skyle, right, Brenda? Or do we know if it hasn't been added yet, maybe? You know, I'm gonna actually go back and search it, because I think if you're interested, you guys will want to see it. Here it is.
Yes, it is so hard, by the way, because I mean, I'm not professional, but it's like, it's hard to record and have a device and be the right distance away and all the things. That's why those videos that you just saw were definitely rookie.
Yeah.
But,
and I'll put that in there for now because you can look at it on your own. It's short. And then Brenda can show us the video. The other question is, has anyone used the eye gaze devices from iTech? And great question. If anybody wants to comment on that. Looks like someone has. Ruth Ann says they were great. And I've tried it. Yeah, and I know someone who's using it with a few students and is really enjoying it. So iTech is another option. And
what is the language system with iTech?
It has multiple. So Ruth Ann, if you're able to share, what are you using with it?
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
We are not actually using any iTech devices right now. We have, in our district, we have access to the Accent devices and the Tobii Dynavox. There's a consultant, and like I've been talking with him, and he wants to come in and do a demo. I was just curious to hear of anybody's experience and kind of the comparison. Because for me right now, I'm like, we have the Tobies, we have the Accent. I don't really know that there's a need for additional one, but unless there was something
what
amazing.
I remember from the iTech, and what I remember from the iTech was that it looked like it was possibly more adult driven. Is that right? Like it doesn't.
I don't know. It does have a lot of like environmental control type things, and I don't know about the adult driven. That's a good question. I do know the two people are using it in schools that I'm thinking of are maybe older users though.
Okay. on the accent or on that, Toby, you know, you can get board maker pictures, or you can have symbol stick, you know, you can have the, so I feel like that's where, because I was working with pretty young, and but you know, let me just see if I can pull up, I might as well do this now, while we're in the eye gaze section.
Great.
And
Thanks for going on this detour with us, everyone. It's always nice
Yeah.
when questions
right.
are coming from you all.
So let me just see, so I have, this, so it's working through assistive touch, you guys. So the good, the bad, and the ugly is there's always the button of assistive touch. And I don't know if you can see it right there. So they can always click it and get out. I ended up putting pretty much nothing on assistive touch except for that it would come out. But let me just show you.
Here we go, honey.
So the same kind of thing.
Mom, I know, I'm talking.
It, you set the dwell time, and she's a excellent accent user, bilingual, and the maybe 32 bilingual or 28 bilingual of Unity. So she's just kind of figuring this out, but I feel like the dwell time is a little bit long. Well, maybe not.
Your body.
Back.
Your back.
So that was, this is touch chat on the 15 with it. And then just for time space, this, I tried it with the 60 since she is so good with small buttons. And this is an iPad Pro, so it is 12 inches.
You're in food right now. I wonder why food is empty. Hold on, let me try that again.
Eat.
There we go. What do you like to eat?
Snack.
Yeah,
More.
more snacks. Okay, more what?
That.
I don't know what it is though.
The. A.
Yeah.
And. Food.
So you get the idea.
Food.
But the video that I made in the YouTube channel is all of the settings, and there's like, I don't know, a lot. I mean, once you're set, but it you know, there was a lot to make that great.
And that's just with what program on the iPad were you
That's
using?
with any iPad. It's through assistive touch. It makes the iPad accessible, the entire iPad accessible through eyes. So I instantly had somebody hit the assistive touch, get out, open up the YouTube icon, and play a video. The problem is he played the video and then he's looking at it. So then it pauses the video and plays the video and pauses the video. So under assistive touch, then you'd have to set it up to pause my eyes and things like that, where my users who are 5, 6, 7 years old, that's a little bit cognitively challenging. But so I'm on the fence on whether or not it seems like the child has to be extremely still. And Nigel from Inclusive TLC says it really doesn't work well with glasses, and he wears glasses. So he's just is admitting right off the bat that there's some limitations to the cameras for those that wear glasses.
So that's just assistive touch, which is just like every iPad comes with it?
Every iPad comes with assistive touch, but you have to buy the Skyle with the iPad because the Skyle has the camera, and then they talk to each other. So the Skyle basically talks to assistive touch within the iPad.
So,
And
yeah, and assistive touch is like a setting. And then the language system she was using was touch chat.
right.
Those can get a little confusing. So that is an app that you would have to purchase, but you could purchase
have
a
that.
Loco or something else.
Yeah. We have those, both those.
But positioning is a big deal no matter what, no matter what access method, to be honest. But with eye gaze, you definitely have to know that that 18 to 22 inches. And again, if they can't see it that far away, then eye gaze isn't really an option for you. If they need it super close, then perhaps hearing is their strength. And that's when we look at switches. But positioning also fosters a level of alertness. So, you know, and then it's, Sometimes I do, you guys, I get to where I'm working with an OT or a mom and the kid kind of leans this way and she's like, oh, can we put the eye gaze over here? It will make her sit up straighter. And the answer is no, because if sitting up straight is hard and communication is hard, she's not going to do either. So we actually work on getting kids further center with all other kinds of activities, but we mount the device where they can get it at rest, not where where we want them to be, but where they actually can learn language because their body is at rest. And you might go rounds with your motor person on that, but but it's the best way to learn language. Is it me again?
Sorry, we had placeholder for Peter for the accent and the Toby, but I think maybe that's what you just showed already.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do that. No worries. Okay, so this is what Brenda showed in the video. First, she showed the accent, which I think looked a little different, but and then the Toby. So
you can get a different color frame on any device, so that's why those always look a little different. And that's the new one. Those are the buttons on the bottom there.
sorry.
But I wanted to show you guys two mounting situations because this is an example. So neither of these kiddos are actually in the position that the OT or PT or anybody in life on the one on the right would want him to rest in. But that is the way his spine goes. So we have mounted it the way he can be at rest. And then they get him out of his chair and stretch him, and they do all kinds of things to work on that curvature of the spine. But we're not placing that in front of him and expecting him to get into a position that we know he can't get into, which means you really have to trust the mount, don't you? If you're going to mount it over that kiddo's head, you got to know that's not going to fall. And so one of my favorite mounts for eye gaze is the CJT. On the left, you'll see it's a rolling floor mount. On this boy's chair, it is a normal wheelchair mount for him, but it's strong and it's durable. And these eye gaze devices are heavy. These are both accent users with word power on them, and not the Unity language system.
Thanks, Brenda. And is it called the ET roller? Is that the name of that one on the
roller is the little frog roller at the bottom, guys. It takes the place of like a hospital, like the rollers that go like under the beds and stuff like that at hospitals, or that are all over your classroom and everybody stuffs their feet on. It's a super small base. I think it's 18 inches end to end. And so it counterbalances. It's heavy, but it counterbalances. And so it's easier to take around in a home and probably in a classroom. And I think we might have those to rent.
We do. We have an ET roller, yeah, to trial. And then also, if you're interested in mounting more than this webinar, Brenda made some Tuesday tips for some new mounts that we have in our lending library. So again, check out the Tuesday tips section, or just search mounting in our YouTube channel.
Yes, thank you. I forgot about that. So just a reminder, 18 to 22 inches. And so that means that they might have to have a language system that has less buttons, because when you get that far away, they can't do a 45 or a 60 or whatever. So that's just to remember. And then face pointing. Okay, so I don't know.
You had a placeholder for a video that you had, and I just added our SETC Tuesday tip on it. But
okay, so but I'm showing a different slide order, but okay.
Oh, sorry. Let's go to yours.
Let's just do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I had a super challenging problem uploading this to a way that I could share it. So just to reiterate what I was saying about the 18 to 22 inches on eye gaze, is that when they're looking at it, it's like you're holding weights like this. And if they need, that's when I brought up the balloon situation. If they look out in the distance, then they get to relax their eyes a little bit. If something comes closer to them, then they get to pull here. And then they can come back to the device and make a choice without kind of that muscle quiver. And that's a real thing, you guys. And so you and I, when we're sitting at a computer watching about 18 to 22 inches, by the way, 18 to 22 inches is about the length of a female adult arm. And that feels like the right distance for so many of us when we're looking at screens. But we still look away into the distance and still look at something close naturally to relax that eye. And so we want, sometimes I'll see a child choose a book and then the teacher comes and puts the book right at that same exact distance next to the device, thinking they're being helpful. But actually we want the book closer to their eyes because we want them to have a range of motion in those distances. So near and far. And then, so sometimes I'll have kids do things where they're like, knocking something over in the distance. We're getting creative about what activities we're doing, so that we're drawing the eyes to a farther distance. I use a magic wand every time to highlight. By the way, you can use this with direct select users too. The kids want to put their finger in that little hole. So I place it over the hole. I place it over the icon that I'm labeling as a way to model, because if I'm modeling with my hands, sometimes I see that kids are trying to move their hands and they can't. If they're doing eye gaze, you usually can't. So I use the eye gaze as a form of modeling here. And then I do that also because if you bring your hand in front and you're talking, your arm is likely blocking part of the cameras for the kids' eyes. And so that's where we don't have a good, we're like, I'm pointing right at it, I'm saying it, and they're not even looking. I can't even find their eyes in the little green box anymore. And that's because your hands are crossed. So, it's still just a language system. So what I find in speech language pathologists end up saying, oh, well, I know how to do devices. I just don't know how to do eye gaze. It's like, okay. So then I set them up on eye gaze and then they say, okay, yeah, but I don't know any of this. I'm like, no, you do actually. Everything that we already know about language, right? Choice making, we need access to social words, core words, a way to do acceptance and rejection. So don't be afraid to start with 2 choices just to help them be accurate. You saw some of those 2 choice pages. It's still just language and we're still just progressing along. It's just a different access method. As soon as the technology gets really complicated, you will see team members feel afraid that they might break it or that they don't know how to do it. So this is the video that I did. It's also on Tuesday Tips, and this is using an iPad Pro, which could be a 10 as well, a 10-inch, as far as I know, unless I'm wrong. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it comes on the mini. I think it has to be a 10.
A cool new feature on an iPad Pro. And normally we think of an iPad Pro as being a 12.5 inch, but actually iPad Pro comes in at several different sizes now. If you go into Touch Chat, go into Menu, go into Settings, you can go down and turn on head pointing. Now you can mess with your tracking speed, your cursor shape, your trigger action, which could be that they blink, they open their mouth, they move their eyebrows, they stick out their tongue, they smile, or they frown. I'm going to set it to smile. Now I'm going to say done. And I'm going to face the device. And when I get to what I want, by moving my head,
Is it off for you guys? Is the sound off from the video?
It was working for me.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna move. I'll move you up then. It was not in sync on my end.
chips. I want to eat chips. If I put it on blink, it works the same way. Settings, enable head point is on. My trigger action can be blink. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna go to colors. Orange, blue, yellow, pink. And I can trigger with all those different actions. So it's minimal movement while you're facing the screen without the need of switches or very expensive and heavy devices. As long as you have some head movement that is under control.
So let's stop there for a second, because that's the key there, is you have to have some head movement. Face pointing on the iPad, which only works right now with the in-touch chat, although I hear it might be coming in Proloquo soon, it's taking your eyes, your nose, your mouth. It didn't work if you had a mask on. So there was that. That was like a whole thing. But not that many kids are on it, but still the kids that were, they couldn't access communication while they had their mask on. But anyways, it takes those points. The good, the bad, and the ugly of that, of taking the points of your face, is your eyeballs could be looking anywhere. So basically you're facing the iPad, and then if somebody walks in the door and you look at them, but you don't move your head away from the screen, your nose and those 5 points that's taking from your mouth, your nose, and your eyes could be activating other buttons. So they do need to be able to have enough head movement that when they're not talking or paying attention to the iPad, they look away from the iPad. So there's not enough points to activate it. Does that make sense? Or any questions about that? I mean, it's obviously a super cheap, awesome option, but I have found that most kids want to make their want the iPad to be eye gaze, and they're not understanding the face pointing. I do like that you have options as far as the smile, the blink, and a few other ways that sometimes we have kids that always smile when they're on the one they want. And so it's a natural access method. Okay. All right. So 3 steps to finding a switch. So let's say you've ruled out eye gaze. And by the way, I always try a whole bunch of them, meaning at least the accent and the Toby for every child. And sometimes I do the scale. I mean, because I've been doing that lately, and then I have face pointing as an option, because sometimes it totally works with one and it completely doesn't work with the other. And the cameras aren't that different, but I'm not sure why. But sometimes it totally reads and works with one set of eyes, and it does, and the other device doesn't do it. So just because they can do one doesn't mean they can do the other. And just because they can't do one doesn't mean eye gaze is out and you've tried a few. Okay, so let's say that they can't move their hands and they can't for direct select, and their vision is poor. So then we need to find, well, what can we do? We have to find a switch site, and it needs to be voluntary, and it needs to be repeatable. And sometimes it can be the hand. Many times it's the head, because it's the first thing to develop and the last thing to decline. Sometimes it's the foot, sometimes it's even an elbow, depending on positioning. So by the way, there's a little like Tuesday tip on this, on these 3 slides I'm showing you, which could be something that you share with your, if you're an OT, you can share it with your SLP. If you're vice versa, if you're an SLP and you have a new OT who's not sure about finding switch sites, there's a little one on this and a handout, I think. So you need to know kind of what's on the market. These are things that you can check out from us. Proximity switch means that you only get close to it. You don't have to get all the way over. You don't have to depress. And so every once in a while, I do have kids on this. And sometimes I have kids on this initially, like with a toy or something, and then they realize what they're doing, and then they get over there far enough. Other times, the kids really need to feel it, hear it click, and pull off of it, and it needs to be a tactile experience. And so again, if I'm looking at switch access, I'm weighing all those pieces. The spec switch is really small. It's a little bit bigger than a quarter. And sometimes with my little kids, I mean, I have 1-year-olds on switches. If they have glasses, I might get a small switch. Other than that, just your regular old jelly bean can work. So we found what we can move on our own independently on purpose, not reflexively. And by the way, there's a thing called ATNR, and I don't know, where like if you get startled, they look one direction and then they move the opposite direction's arm. And we try not to set switches where, even if that is a voluntary movement, but when they startle, they also do that. We want to, or when they have a seizure, they always go that way, and they have about 15 seizures a day. So it doesn't make sense to put the switch there. So making sure that you're not putting a switch, you're always putting a switch in the voluntary location, and it's not an involuntary location at other times. And then you're deciding what kind of switch. And then it's not letting me advance. We're connecting with something motivating, right? Because they're not going to work that hard to hit a switch or to move their bodies all the way over unless it's exciting. So the key to that is variety and matching their sensory system. So some of our kids with low vision do really like light up toys. So they can still, visual toys can be super motivating. Some of our kids with low vision still really like bubbles. But other options are things like this vibrating pillow on the right. And I don't know what we're doing with pillows, because with COVID and everything, it's a really hard thing to wipe down and keep clean. But it's a good and fun toy. This comes out of Walmart every year, and we have a toy giveaway that we do here in Arizona, and we no matter how many of these we adapt every year, we give away them all away, because hitting a switch and feeling something vibrate and then coming off the switch and having that stop is better than 1,000 words of explanation for a child. I click it, I feel it, I click off of it, it's off. I don't need all the words of touch the switch and come off the switch, and do you want to make this go, and all the words, because they're trying to concentrate on making their body do something it hasn't done before. And so it's our jobs as SLPs to not talk too much while they're trying to figure that out. Any questions on this process? I have simplified it down to 3 things, but you guys all know it's way harder than that. Sarah, do you want to talk about the switch kit?
Yeah, so I put a link in the chat, and let me just, well, you can see it when you pull it up at the bottom of that. Brenda, if you click on it, are you able to click on the link in the chat? On the bottom of the page, there's a picture of the switch kit. It has a lot of things that Brenda is showing you right now. I think we are able to get the massaging vibrating pillows out now. And oh, I see it there.
It's not a live link though for me.
Oh, it looks like it just pulled up. Okay, well, that's okay. It includes some of these items. It includes switches and Bluetooth switch interface and an iPad. So it's a really great kit. They're always checked out all year. So if you want to try one, I would recommend doing it now. Thanks, Brenda. There it is.
Get on the list.
Yeah, there's a little picture of it right there. It's got all these items and including low-tech eye gaze for it. So, because remember, a lot of times you may have students doing all of these things, right? maybe in the morning they do eye gaze, and then in the afternoon they need to do switches or something like that. Okay, a couple of questions. Let's see. A copy of the slides. I think we can send that out, right, Brenda?
Yeah, I just have to, because I couldn't, because I don't know why, but I couldn't put it in Google Slides. So it's not a slide deck. It wasn't as easy to share. So
Yeah.
I think I need to pull all the videos and try to maybe your version now, Sari. We
probably figure that out. And then save the chat, because we put a lot of links in the chat. You should have 3 little buttons in the chat where it says where you're writing to everyone. Then there's 3 little buttons. If you click on that, the first option should be save chat. And then you'll have all of those. Otherwise, you can just kind of click on it and select it all and copy it. Then the other question was, what process do you recommend following for switch learning? Like there's Linda Burkhart's Stepping Stones to Switch Success. Is there something like that?
Honestly, that's probably the best and most systematic resource for you out there. And I agree with everything that she says and does on that. I don't follow it to a T because I'm a little more fluid and I want to try different things. But for the most part, yeah, I think she's right on, and she's done a lot of research with this. So it walks you through. But let me kind of, I think I talk about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I think I talk about that. I was meant to do this.
And if you don't do this every day, all day, like Brenda, then it is kind of nice to have something like that printed out, or when you're sharing it with other people in your, your IEP team, someone's coming and working with the student later in the day, something to have to follow, or look for parents to look at and kind of get an idea of what the process is nice. I'll also often make a binder that has maybe that with like highlighted what you guys are working on right now. And then you can put little notes like, oh, this morning they used it to do XYZ, like listen to music. This was really motivating. So then when somebody comes in later, or you're not in the classroom later in the day, they can look at it and say, oh, okay, I'm going to go for that.
Perfect. I love that idea. So what I did learn from Stepping Stones, I would remember this very vividly. I remember talking to Kristen and telling her, she's the special ed director now. I remember telling her, call me crazy, but I think 2-step scanning is easier than 1-step scanning. And I was like, call me crazy, because that means we need 2 sides. We have to be able, 2 things we can move with our bodies intentionally. But the reason why I think that is because if movement is super hard already, if we have 1 switch, then what's happening is we're setting it to automatic scan. And the device is listing off things every 3 to 5 seconds, because research through Linda Burkhart was I think things longer than 5 or 6 seconds, they give up and they just want to make it stop. So they make selections because they think it's broken or not working anymore. So that 3 to 5 second scan is about the amount of time you have to play with. And a lot of our kids can't make a movement when they're first learning. They can't decide that's what I want and make their body move in that time frame. And sometimes kids can, and then they have a seizure, and then that time frame changes. The thing about 2-step scanning is that's when you're going bubbles, songs, kisses from mom, bubbles. When I hear the one I want, I have to come over here and hit I want bubbles, and it can take me as long as it takes me, because I'm the one advancing. So and I remember telling her, and she goes, well, yeah, that's in Linda Burkhart's Stepping Stones right there, that 2-step scanning is easier than 1-step. I was like, oh, should have looked at that first. So I would say that my clinical experience definitely parallels what she has to say. And I kind of wish I would have done that, use that a little bit more, especially in the beginning. But here's my little guy, guys. He's 1 year old. The first time he's ever even seen a switch, seen any of this.
You can do that for one or something different.
Music. 5 frogs.
There it is.
So he's selecting on the red.
For music.
You want different music. Okay.
Let's sing. Let's sing. So
Let's sing a song. What are you gonna sing? A song. What's a favorite?
It's either these spiders. Good or patty cake, actually. Let's do that one.
Patty cake, baker's man.
Bake me a cake as fast as you can. Roll it, pat it, mark it with a bean. Throw it in the oven for baby and me. Yay!
Okay, you get to make another choice.
Sharks.
You want the shark song now, huh? Okay.
Let's play 5 sharks.
Let's do it. Let's play
Let's do
5 sharks. I'm ready.
So what I do when I'm setting up with a person with 2-step scanning is I put the red on stop or no or not, that's not it. Not that one, not that one, not that one. And I put the green on that's the one. And I do that as much for my team as I do for the child, because they honestly can't really see the pictures from where, especially if they're using their head. But then I take pictures of where I put the head where I put the switches exactly, and they all know the red is the scan and the green is the select. And so as your team gets going, you make up these little rules. It doesn't matter. There's nothing magical about those colors. They twist off and you can put whatever you want, but it allows you to have some consistency within your team. And then the other, so what he's doing is he's clicking and listening. And so because depending on the page, right, you might be on toys one day, you might be on songs the next. I say, is that the one or something different? Is that the one is my select switch? Something different is my scan switch. And that way that vocabulary works on whatever page you're on. So we don't say, is it Moana? Is it Moana? Do you want it Moana? And then he clicks and changes it to Cinderella. Then you're still saying, is that Cinderella? Is that Cinderella? And he's like, wait a minute, that was Moana a second ago. So that's how I got to changing it to saying, is that the one or something different? So that we can use the same vocabulary, same switches, same motor plans across all practitioners that are practicing this kind of stuff, right?
That's a really good tip, Brenda. I also appreciate how the song piece of it was the human interaction. That was the communication piece that you guys were singing it. That's what's motivating. That's nice.
Thank you for pointing that out, because people want to say, well, why doesn't it just play the video of somebody singing patty cake? And it's like, because that's not what purpose of the communication is, not to play the video. The purpose of communication is we set all this stuff aside and I get eye contact, I get personal connection, I get physical touch. I get my favorite song sung by my mom, even if she can't sing it, hold a tune, or me, although she could in this video. But I'm just saying, like, you're right. We tend to want to make things more whistles and bells than they need to be. And we lose the human connection, actually.
You can do that
Sure.
for one or something different.
Music. 5 frogs.
There it is. Yeah.
Sharks. Music.
You want different music. Okay.
Oh, that's the same one. Later that same session. So look at him right there. He's so excited. He can't even believe he's doing this.
We're on Old MacDonald. Is that the one? Or do you want something different? Do you want to hear the choices? What should we sing?
There's a little baby in the background. It's not coming from him.
What should we sing?
Itsy bitsy spider.
Oh my goodness.
You are my sunshine.
What song do you like?
That song Grandma sings.
It's your happy.
Do you know it? Which one should we sing? Put your eyes up, you find it. I see you. If you want it, you gotta come all the way over. If you're happy and you know
You're
it.
happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Clap, clap.
If you're happy
It's
and
okay.
you know it, clap your hands.
If you're happy and you know it, then things will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
And I'll let you do. Okay, here's another 2-step scanner. I'm just showing you guys videos so you can kind of get the sense of how I'm doing this at the very beginning, which I think is the hardest part of teaching all this.
All right, we're all done swinging. Let's see what our
what are we gonna
choices
do?
are, honey.
car wash.
Think about.
Is, so that's just kind of the snapshot of eye gaze, face pointing, different ways of implementing that and teaching that and scanning. So any questions on that? Oh, there's more messages. Hold on, let me look. Yes, go talk.